this is Uniquely Made Jessica. Welcome to my channel, and this channel is dedicated to any and everything on a budget, whether that's fashion, beauty, lifestyle. If it's affordable, I try my best to find it. So if this is a channel for you, like, rate, and subscribe. And today, this video is going to be really different. And this is something like the people closest to me, friends, family, everybody else been trying to get me to do for a long time. So those of you that probably don't know, I love to read. I've always liked to read since I was a kid. So technically, this is going to be like a first book review of mine. So I'm pretty much going to start it off like talking about all the books I read in June. So if you're interested to see what I read in June and how I feel about these books, please stay tuned. So yeah, I realized I read 12 books in the month of June, and most of them I read on my Kindle. I've had this Kindle for like about 2 years now, and I've done a video about how I feel about my Kindle and everything, but I read mostly on my Kindle or on my tablet. But anyway, like you can see, I love books, so I wrote them all down, and I got this off of my Goodreads, because my Goodreads mostly tracks my book reading and everything, even though I do use Fable and Storygraph too. So the first two books that I read are the Married to a Brownsville Bully series, and I read books 2 and 3, and I read book 1 back in May, and it's by the author Jaquel J, and she has become one of my favorite authors of this current time. So pretty much Married to a Brownsville Bully is pretty much talking about different people. Golden, she was in this abusive marriage to this guy, and I think his name is Grant. So she was in this abusive relationship with this guy. She's originally from New York, moved down to Virginia. He got locked up and everything, and she just leaves. So she goes back to New York to pretty much start her life new. So it talks about her life. It talks about her meeting Yoshan Santana, and you know, he's doing this thing out in the streets and everything like that. And Yoshan's sister Yolani got on my nerves, like in the first 2 books, but I feel like towards the 3rd book she tried to redeem herself a little bit. Yolani has a wife named Hazel, and all the different characters and everything, and Golden also has a son. So it pretty much talks about, you know, their lives and everything like that, and I really enjoyed it. It was fast paced for me, had a lot of stuff going on. It was action filled. It's not exactly like the Delgados and the Infernos and whatever, if you're familiar with that, but I really did enjoy the entire Married to a Brownsville Bully series. But then again, for me personally, you can't go wrong with the Jaquel J books, so I definitely recommend those 2. Alright, so the 3rd book, since I already brought up those 2, the 3rd book I read for the month of June was Mia, from the Diligent Chronicles by Kimberly Brown. And Mia is the last book of the Diligent Chronicles series. So you have to pretty much start with Deuce, Maceo, Smoke, Jada, Steele, and then you get to Mia. Mia, throughout all the other books, worked my nerves. Her and her love interest, Titan, they got on my nerves. And Mia is the baby of the family. She's the baby of the family and everything. So it talks about her and Titan's love story, and they went through some obstacles and everything as well. So they pretty much like went through a several hard times or whatever, and they pretty much like rebuild their relationship and whatever. So after you read all the other diligence first, then you get to Mia. And I felt like her story really did get like emotional and real. And I feel like her book really redeemed her character for her. Because I'm just sitting there like, Mia and Titan got on my nerves, but they redeemed themselves. So I feel like that was an overall good series. Next book I read was This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. And this is the first Kennedy Ryan book that wasn't like a novella. I think I read a novella of hers like a year or so ago, and it's like a Juneteenth novella. This is the first book of hers that I actually finished that wasn't a novella, because I read Before I Let Go. Well, I read Before I Let Go, but I never finished, and I started it twice, and it's part of the Skyland series. I just kind of felt like Before I Let Go was just really slow for me, and I don't mind a slow burn, but I just couldn't really get into it. So I only read this could be us to kind of check off one of the little things you get, the little challenges you get on the Kindle app. So I just got it for that. I already had the book in my library. I actually enjoyed that book a lot better than the first one. The first one is Yasmin and her man Josiah. This one is Soledad and her boo Judah Cross. And I think the third one is like with Hendrix and whatever. I haven't read the third one yet, but it was really good. That ex-husband of hers can go to hell. Like, that ex-husband of Soledad's could go to hell. And one of her daughters, I can understand because she's young, but I'm just like, girl, please. But I really enjoyed the book. It had a really good story and everything. And it was just like refreshing to see them fall in love. So that's that. This next book, child, I made a TikTok about it because I was just so freaking irritated by this character. And the name of this book is She Gave Her All to the Hood's Finest by Siobhan Latrice. And I kept hearing about this book because I kept hearing about Tony Wacko. And I'm like, let me see what this dude is talking about. Pissed me off. Pissed me off. I'm literally on TikTok cussing because I don't like Tony Wacko. And the only reason why I don't like him is because I don't really like overly mean characters. I don't like overly mean people in real life. So he smoothly pissed me off. And it's pretty much about him, Tony Wacko, and his relationship with this girl named Kamari. Kamari can never seem, to have something good going for her. So pretty much it's about, their love story. I'm just like, Tony Wacko is so fly at the mouth. He just rude. He just say whatever he want to say to people and don't give a damn about what he say and who he say it to. And Kamari, I understand, like, he kind of gives like Big D energy, and he's funny. Like, some of the stuff he say be funny, but I'm just like, bro, who you talking to? You don't let me pop in your mouth. Like, he really like gives that kind of vibe for me. So if you like a lot of chaos and you like your male characters to be quote unquote unhinged, Tony Wacko is your man. Me, I have not went back to read any of the other books. I'm sitting there like, bro. And that ain't what I really want to say. I'm like, bro, you made me want to backhand you. And I know if you try to backhand Tony Wacko, he will backhand you back. So I'm just like, yeah, bro, I'm just leave you where you at. And it's crazy because I like people like Menace Caselli, but I feel like Menace ain't exactly like Tony Wacko. If you like me like Tony Wacko, do you, boo, but he's not for me. So next book I read was Fall for You, and it's an African-American paranormal romance by Melody Lynch. And this one was a novella too. And honestly, I remember bits and pieces, but I feel like the story wasn't that memorable for me. So I probably wouldn't read anything about it, or not because it's bad. It's just, I've read better books. And I think it's about, if I remember correctly, the male character is like a fallen angel, and the main female character, I think her name is like Ariana. It was something with an Ari in it. Pretty much her family got caught up in some mess, and this character is there to pretty much like protect her and everything. So it's like a real short, type of story. and whatever. And it was cool for what it was. I was just curious. I'm like, okay, let me just try it out. But it's not anything too memorable, but it is what it is. Next book I read was Curiosity by Christina C. Jones. And she had some good books. I was starting to read her when I got back into reading because I was reading a lot as a kid in high school. Then I got to college. I would read a little bit here and there. But in my early adult life, I just kind of like fell off. So I really started back reading like around 2020, 2021, at least consistently. And she and another author that I'm about to bring up were like my main authors I was reading, trying to get back into books. So this book is Curiosity, like I said. This is a novella as well. And it's also paranormal because it has vampires. So pretty much this chef was hired to work this party. And it's like at night and whatever. And she stumbles into that particular party and seeing something she wasn't supposed to see. So she gets entangled with this character that ends up being a vampire. So you get to see how that, turns out. And it's part of the Blackwood After Dark series. Matter of fact, I'm about to start the second book soon. So yeah. Next book I finished was Black Owned: The Revolutionary Life of the Black Bookstore by Shar Adams. This is a nonfiction. And it's pretty much like the history of black bookstores. And she uses black owned and black bookstores interchangeably. And interesting fact about me, I do want to own a bookstore one day. So that was the main reason why I picked this book out, because I really want to see, the history, and it like scales back to like the early 18 and 1900s all the way to the present day. So it was really interesting to get that history of the different black bookstores, the struggles they went through, how they had activists pretty much doing the work in the community in places like New York City, Washington, D.C., L.A., those type of places. So I thought that was really informative. It was really good. And I do want to have that book on my bookshelf one day. The next book I read was The James by B.M. Hardin. And that book is pretty much like, I want to say it's like a thriller, like a suspense kind of like thriller, which is a little bit out my wheelhouse. I typically like romance and urban fiction, but I kept seeing about this book and I thought, okay, let me read it. So pretty much The Janes is about this lady, of course, her name is Jane. It's her husband, they get a house in this community. But the community, everybody's name is Jane. And it's some weird stuff goes on in this community. There's a lot of weird things going on in that community. And pretty much when she moves into this community, gets this house with her husband, she realizes everything ain't what it seems. So read that. It's a novella. If you're typically not into suspense and thrillers, it's really good. It's going to have you sad. So I like that book. The next one is Teach Me by Alexandria House. That's the other author that got me back into reading back in like 2020, 2021. And I started with Let Me Love You. Anyway, this is part of the Romy University series. So this one is about a lady named Nadia. She's a professor at Romy University. She also graduated from there as well. And she meets this guy named Nathan, who is a former football player. He has kids. So it's pretty much talk about their love story. And she's funny too. Like, Alexandria House has some funny people, especially this character, Uncle Leicester. He's gonna crack you up. So definitely recommend Alexandria House all the time. Next book is Reclaiming Love by L. Kaysen. If you heard of Demon's Dream, you know who L. Kaysen is. So this book is in the series with Emancipation, Louisiana. So if you read Real's Love by L. Kaysen, you would have been introduced through theory. Theory Miller. And she's the cousin to like Everly, who is the character in Real's Love. Anyway, Theory met this guy named Targan. Targan is the friend to her cousin's man, Real. So pretty much Targan and Theory fall in love. Then Targan has to leave. He left for like a year or some change. Comes back to pretty much reclaim Theory. But Theory's like, bro, you left me for like a year or so. You think you're gonna just come back here and just sweep me off my feet? You gonna see. So it pretty much like follows up their love story and everything else. So I really enjoyed it. Next book is A Harlem Wedding by Tiffany L. Warren. And technically I read this book as an arc back in January. And thank God she was easy to let people get arcs, because I am not a booktuber or anything like that. Thank God I was able to get it as an arc. The book is good. So I got it again to reread it as an audiobook. The audiobook really does make things better. So pretty much it's the story of, it's a historical fiction, and it's about Yolande Du Bois, who is the daughter of W.E. Du Bois. And it pretty much like talks about her life. It starts with her senior year, about to get ready to go to the senior prom, and she meets this musician named Jimmy Lunsford. So it's pretty much talking about like kind of like their love affair and her years in like finishing high school, going into college, her early adult life. And you get to see some glimpse of like other people that was prominent in the Harlem Renaissance. Of course, like W. Du Bois, County Cullen, who she ends up marrying. But you'll see what happens with that marriage, and Jessie Redmond Fawcett. And pretty much if you read Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray, which I read that book last year, you get to see how those timelines overlap when you read A Harlem Wedding. And I will admit, if you know about W. Du Bois and his activism, his work and everything, it made me appreciate who he is as like somebody into sociology and that kind of thing. But his personal choices pissed me off. And it's really like crazy. Like my alma mater literally has a bust of W. Du Bois on our campus, and I'm a graduate of Clark Atlanta University because he taught at Atlanta University. So it's like I can appreciate his work, but sometimes I'm just like, bro, you got some nerve. But read that, because you'll really get a taste of how it was back in those days. And honestly, the Harlem Renaissance is really interesting. And the very last book is also by Alexandria House. It's the second book of the Roman University series, and it's Touch Me by Alexandria House. And it's about Giovanni and Charla. Charla is also a professor at Roman University, and she's the friend to Nadia from Teach Me. So they're friends, and they're both professors. So Charla ends up meeting Giovanni, who is a photographer, and he's the artist in residence at the university. So it pretty much mentions their love story and how their relationship progressed as well. So yeah, hopefully I didn't run my mouth for too long. That's the end of this video. I've been wanting to do book reviews for a while, but I'm just like, girl, I don't know if I'm consistent enough or anything like that. Let me know how you like this video. Would you like to see me do more book reviews? I haven't had to write them down because I didn't realize I read 12 books this month. But then again, I feel like certain months I read more books than I give myself credit for. So if you want me to, this could be a consistent thing I do, on top of doing videos about, you know, affordable things I find for like Bath & Body Works, Shop Miss A, that type of vibe. But yeah, that's about it. Let me know if you read these books. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Do y'all have any books to recommend for me? I am mostly like a romance and urban fiction kind of girl. But if you think it's good, I'm open to reading it. And I will say I read mostly black authors. But if you know a book that's good, you can, give me those recommendations as well. So that's going to be about it. And until next time, bye.